Goedemorgen allemaal. Hartelijk welkom op deze tweede dag van de G10. Het is wat grijs, maar de zon gaat zeker schijnen. En één manier om het te laten schijnen is natuurlijk door middel van een houten huis, waar je prachtig op je balkon kan zitten, in een ideale omgeving, biologisch verantwoord, prachtig omgeving en ook nog heel goedkoop. Dus een soort dream comes true voor Amsterdammers die dat bijna niet kunnen geloven, dat zoiets überhaupt mogelijk is. We werken daar heel hard aan met de gemeente Amsterdam en de gemeente Weesp. En op alle fronten. Het is heel experimenteel uit het geheel. Het kan ook in andere plaatsen van Nederland kan het, zich ontwikkelen. Wanneer de gemeentes meewerken en wanneer de draai in de hoofden plaats gaat vinden. Want het is mogelijk in de huidige bouwwijze om voor prachtige huizen te bouwen die 250.000 euro kosten. Op grond die natuurlijk moeilijk is. Maar het lijkt te gaan lukken in Weesp. Dus ik geef graag het woord aan de heer die daar heel veel van weet en die daar samen met mij voortdurend aan werkt. Misak Terstibisian.
Thanks.
It's okay.
Sorry?
Yeah?
Danai.
Yeah, I little bit less loud. Little bit less loud, yeah? That's better. I understood of Boudewijn we should do it in English, so I do it in English. Because he was speaking introduction in Dutch. English, okay? Okay. I prepared especially for you. Yeah, my name is Misak Tersibastian. I'm the founder and principal architect of You Architects. And, oh yeah, the slides. Let's put it on. Yep. Yeah, You Architects. The attitude of our office is in dialogue with our clients. That's the most important what we are always doing. And we look also in a wider cultural context of architecture and urban development. The reflection helps us also for interactions in other culture, and it helps us to understand our position regarding general themes which are part of society. Understanding the identity of society is fundamental for us when we are designing projects in other cultures and places. It's an open approach of the context. In 2021, we published a book with the title Experience and Meaning of Architecture. I forgot to take the books with me, so they are not here. So you can order it by internet or something like that. Of course, I'm not doing this alone. Architecture in our studio is all about teamwork. And we are working together, and I'm working together with Danai, who will give the second part of the presentation, and Meer, who is holding the camera now. They had both a contribution also in this presentation. In the second part, she will give more details about the project itself. So, to look with you together about the location, where is Weesp? I think most of you know it. You see here a red dot, and we are here in Amsterdam. And it is a beautiful location. It's called a polder. So it's man-made intervention. And what I want to show you is about that the Dutch landscape, as you all know, is formed by nature and later by mankind. So when we look a little bit more than 5,000 years before Christ, you see here a nice map how the Dutch landscape has developed in those 1,000 years. The next one is 3,850 before Christ, And you see here in this picture that the landscape is forming. So when we move to 2750 before Christ, you see already the contours. And it is always the struggle between water and land. As we know, a big part of the Netherlands is under the sea level. So 1500 before Christ, this picture shows this dark brown chocolate areas is a ground which is called peat. Peat is veen for the Dutch speaking. And you see the river landscape, which is also through in the middle part of Netherlands going through. So 500 before Christ, you see how the shape changes of this Dutch landscape all the time. 100 years after Christ, again, the red dot wisp. And when we move to the future, mankind has an intervention in this Dutch landscape. It's important to remember. 1500 after Christ, you see how these areas are again with water filled. Here you have some spots. And when we go to 1850, these areas are reclaimed land from the sea. Nowadays, the red dotted areas are the cities which we know. Here again, IJsselmeer. So, why do I tell about this story? I think we have to know that landscape is something has a big value, but we should see landscape as a dynamic process also. It's all the time in transformation. So taking this into account, we can think also about the location which we have in Weesp. So when we look to the map of 1860, and we zoom in, this is the location, you see in 1860 it had a structure of this polder, and it had a certain configuration of lines. We go to 1880, you see it already starts to change. 1900, you get here a canal, the Amsterdam-Rijnkanal, and you see on this picture also the location is changing of his configuration of lines. 1920, 1940, 1960, and again you see some changement here in the lines of the configuration, a bigger canal. All the time, mankind has influence on the landscape. This is 1980, year 2000, and 2020. Aerial picture of the location on Google. Some conditions which are made by the government, which we have to take into account when we make a proposal. They are called ruimtelijke plannen, which you can find on internet. And before I go to this, I want to tell you something about what I just presented. There are, of course, some voices campaigning to protect the Dutch landscape from change. I think it's a little bit strange notion, given that landscape undergo a continual change, which is, of course, natural, but also made by mankind. So this area has changed all over these thousands and thousands of years, and now mankind has also an influence. But this we took in account in our plan, but we took also in account the climate change, because it's a very important topic at this moment. Mostly of you know these goals, which are made by United Nations. And I think I don't have to tell you too much about this. But the most important one is the report which was made by IPCC about the thing what is happening at this moment and what will happen in the coming 10 years, 20 years. We are all very worried about the things what will happen. And the question is, how can we as planners, designers, architects, government, give this a right direction to recover the climate change? So we can think about the agriculture, which has an impact on this greenhouse gas emission, as we see in this picture. It has almost 30% of this gas emission. And deforestation is almost this global, is 80%, so we should give attention also for this one. So if you take these things in account, and you can break the circle, I don't proclaim here that we should stop with agriculture. That's not that what I'm proclaiming. But what is interesting is to break this circle here. So there are many solutions for this. There can be a storage of carbon dioxide. Here you can store it underground, and this is the plan what the government has. But the government has also the plan to build tiny forest, as you know, and that has a big impact on this carbon dioxide negative emission. We should take this in account, and if we don't, and I'm not want to tell here a negative story, but this is the reality. We all know that we have to make, I think we are a little bit late, but we should make this changement also in the architecture and the building industry. So it's not all about that I'm telling you a pessimistic story. I want to tell you an optimistic story here. And there are also many people who are worried about this in all layers of the society. This was in demonstration in 2019. But what more important is, and what we forget, is lately we had also a demonstration against that there are not affordable houses enough. This is a point in the Netherlands, what is happening at this moment, that people cannot buy affordable housing because they are too expensive. So in which way can we contribute in this problem as an architect? And it seems like it is something new, but it's completely not new. Almost 100 years ago, we had the same situation, also in Amsterdam, that there were very bad living conditions for workers. And people were living in conditions that they even want to live better, but it was not able. They couldn't afford it. So there were some handful architects, entrepreneurs, felt to take action. And this led to the creation of a school of architecture that gave attention for affordable housing for the working class, which was light, airy, and spacious. This is the plan of urban design of Berlage in Amsterdam Zuid. They made beautiful architecture in those days. Affordable for middle class and workers, with a social input, output. That's important, that people have a good place to live. But it was not only in the Netherlands, it was also in other countries at the same time, in France, in Germany, in England. We know the garden cities, we know Bauhaus, which was thinking also of housing which is affordable. And there's also a task for us as architects to think about affordable housing. So when we are, as architects cannot think about, you cannot build. But it's also depending on the building sector that they want to make this. And of course, I'm easy way speaking here, and you can say, okay, but the materials get expensive the last years or 2 years. You have inflation. That can be, but still you can find new solutions to build in an affordable way. So our proposal for WASP is a forest with affordable houses. And what is this forest? Is it a tiny forest, like you plant different kind of trees in different layers? Or is it a food forest that you are planting trees that they are an element of for the people who are living there? They can pick their fruit and they have a living condition with that. Or do we think about a forest which is adapted to the context? And I think the last one is the most interesting one, that we each time look to the context, to the soil, to the possibilities, that this forest is adapted to the context. You can plant every tiny forest or a food forest, but take into account your context. So in this part of project, we incorporated also affordable houses. So we made many studies of it. And we looked also how we can connect this location with the existing infrastructure. So how we can move from the train station easily to the location in WASP. We didn't want to look for the solution of a car, but simple vehicles like an electric bike, which you can store at the station, go with the electric bike to your new place. And that could be an interesting solution in infrastructure also, because if you don't think about your infrastructure, then still you have a problem. So, and for this location, the Houten Stad, or the wooden city, we have different proposals, because we have taken account the polderlandschap here. So, we want to introduce some elements like education info panels, like a watchtower which is looking over the new forest, and an education center in combination with the affordable houses. Gesundheit. Yeah. Some bird views, how it looks now at this moment. This is a projection of our proposal. From the other side, a bird view. This is again a projection of our proposal. And I will show you a short animation of 2.5 minutes, and after this, Danai will take over. She will give the second part of the presentation. Nou, kom. En dan?
Hello, everyone. So, you took a short taste of what we are imagining about living in a forest could be. And we saw houses like the Falcon House, all scattered around the forest, the Hera House, the Hexa, and some variations of Finland houses. Everybody, though, has access to the greenhouses, which is the most important thing of the forest, because everybody gathers there. So the greenhouses are made from used materials and mostly available in the locations. First of all, these projects can be upscaled or downscaled thanks to their modularity. Also, the off-grid approach means that people care and consume their own homegrown goods, food, vegetables, everything, which not only helps the environment, but also their mental health. So the idea was to make a smart system to achieve the best balance between people and nature. Each unit has its own composting toilets, water purification, PV systems, rainwater collection, even some wind turbines. By designing this kind of flexible units with modular elements and high efficiency systems, and of course, bio-based materials, we can achieve net zero buildings. Also, by planting local trees and bushes and maintain them, but by our own collected water, we can achieve an independent, sustainable way of living and tourism. All this construction is delivered by trucks and it's assembled to the site. We tend to put everything 20 centimeters above the ground to respect the natural habitat and not interfere with the local flora and fauna. To be more specific, 80% of the energy used in homes is consumed by heating and cooling. And you know how much cold can be here. So our system, our off-grid smart system, consists of open walls to achieve the best ventilation. And also, it depends on the materials. Every material is bio-based, environmental friendly, and CO2 neutral. For example, for the interior, we used plywood or ecoboard, and the exterior, mostly Accoya. No concrete is used in these kind of structures. Even the foundings are made of steel. Steel pillars that can screw down the earth approximately 3 meters, and they have the ability to reuse and remove to any location. On the top, we have the green roof, which collects the water, and the double ceiling underneath provides thermal comfort. Under the roof, we find the storages, energy storage and water storage that sustain the whole structure. And of course, we provide some wind turbines for the days that the sun is not enough. The modularity of the structure gives the ultimate flexibility. And we realize these things slowly And we came up with these kind of ideas. We experimented with affordable houses, and at the end we won an international competition about them. So our concept was able to adapt to any peri-urban place around the world. The challenge was to make the ultimate use of a border around 100 square meters. We came up with three solutions, three typologies, or three sizes. Down on this slide, we can see some of the numerous proposals, some of the numerous combinations for the site. For example, here we can fit 3 small houses, or 1 small and 1 large, 2 medium, 2 large. The possibilities are countless. More specific, the small house, the small unit, is made for 1 person who wants to live in the forest. The second one, the medium, can also be suitable for 2 people, a couple maybe, they want to retreat in the nature. And the large one can also host a small family. The installation process is simple and quick. Firstly, we place the floor modules above the ground, and then after we screw them with the foundations, we put the facade, first attached to the floor and then together. When the facades are ready, we put the floor, the second floor slab, and the roof with the mechanisms on top. For the finishing and the detailing, we put the doors and windows. This kind of process saves not only money, but time and energy. And you can make your house in 1 day and affordable. To prove that this kind of structures can adapt to any environment, our proposal was initially for an urban place in Alaska, around Fairbanks. There, we proposed a small wooden village, specially suitable for independent retreat, and with the biggest goal to achieve the balance between nature and living, between the environment and the people. So this is one of the million and numerous, uncountable ways of planning this kind of villages. The units, as you see, these ones, are scattered equally around the site, supported by some small individual storages and some parking spaces near the road. And of course, with the greenhouses. The greenhouses are common used in this kind of villages, and they motivate people to work together, be together as a community, and provide food, fruits, and all the goods that can grow on Earth. All these are connected with organic shaped path, wooden elevated path, so everyone can walk around or bike around. So as you can see, we try to take the environment as an inspiration to deliver more low impact, adaptable, and healthy living spaces. With this kind of initiatives, we try to show ways that buildings and structures can minimize their own environmental footprint. We, as architects, we have to be part of the solution and not the pollution. So let us take you to another walk in another location we experimented with in Leerdam. And thank you very much.
Maybe the last one. the last slide. Kijk.
Hij werkt. Hartelijk dank, Misak. En Danai, prachtige Griekse naam, maar niet zo makkelijk uit te spreken. Een fantastische presentatie van een futuristisch project. En nou hoop ik dat er wat mensen zijn die iets willen vragen over het, hoe ver het ermee staat. Leerdam, Weesp of toekomstige projecten. Ja, daar is een meneer. Can be English better.
Thanks for the presentation. It's a very lovely project. I had two questions. One is, it seems to me that for affordable housing, this needs a lot of space for relatively few people. So you need, if you want to combat a housing crisis, you would need a lot of area, a lot of space. That's my first question. How can we do that? And the second one is at what stage is this project? Did you actually build those houses already? And what is the government and the local government thinking about this plan?
I answer these questions since maybe that's not completely clear. These projects are also part of the G10. In the time that we could not organize G10s, which was 2 years, we got a little bit bored. And we started to think, how can we make things also more practical, not only philosophy on spread minds and stuff like that, but also make things more concrete, which are also very, I can answer these questions. So, of course, you need a lot of space for it, but there's a lot of ground available in the Netherlands. We have about, left over 10,000 farmers, and they have about 55% of the agricultural ground, and about 50% of the farmers wants to stop with their work. So there is lots of ground available. The only thing is, of course, het bestemmingsplan is usually nature, which is the case in Leerdam, or it has another destination. But we are not, if we try to be in balance with what everybody wants, which is not so easy, of course, we have to build, in Wees, we do only 73 houses on that. So nature has still a chance to develop among the houses. Easily we could do 150 or so there, but then you get this, then the accent is wrong. It is also, the whole area should also be accessible for local people. There's a nature monument, almost a UNESCO nature monument under the ground, 7 meters deep. So we make a kind of museum. This was not completely clear in the presentation for the local people to visit that and also to see what their area is. So how far are we now in concrete? These houses, some of them are built, some will be built for a project in the south of the Netherlands. That is always a long way, but we are already 1 year busy. Amsterdam is absolutely a fan of us, and Weesp is part of Amsterdam from the end of this year. Let's say in Weesp we are trying to change the mind of not of the locals, but of the beslissingsnemers. And it looks to go slowly in the right direction. And next year in March, then in Weesp will be made the decision by the gemeenteraad. And this will be definitive. And we asked, that was also not completely clear in the presentation, only not a change of the destination plan, because that takes about, say, 6 to 15 years in the Netherlands. That's hopeless. Particularly if you want to change nature, it has no chance. So we ask actually a limit for 15 years. 15 years they can give as an exception for an experimental way of building. And this can be done in 1 day or so. And then the people, of course, they can live only 15 years, and then we can ask for an extension. This is a law made by the former Secretary of State, Mrs. Ollongren. So it's moving. Weesp and Leerdam, particular Weesp, has a good chance, and we will make. We find new areas in the Netherlands. As long as the major problem is not people who wants to buy these houses. They are very cheap, and we have also we make co-ops to live in them. They're about between 175 and 250,000, inclusive everything. So that is a ridiculous price for the Netherlands. But you need the gemeenteraden to change their minds. So that's what we're doing now, actually. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the wonderful presentation. I'm from the Balkans. Many of us are still living in the trees up there. And from your presentation, I could see a lot of inspiration from these traditional habitat models, which is great. I'm all for that. My question is has this model that you're presenting here also thought about alleviating some of the problems with these traditional models? When I'm thinking about like things, access to amenities like the fire department and ambulances, mosquitoes, artificial lighting. Have you taken those things into account, and how have you tackled these problems?
Yeah, sure. As you see, if you're looking for a fire road, it was not presented. But sure, that's important, the practical way how it is placed on the location, and you have these local governments, you have to agree, all those things with the, as you mentioned, I think it's very important. But the idea what we have is a vision, is an idea, and we are working out is also practical now. So.
Can I ask you mentioned a traditional way, because we see this as super advanced 21st century buildings. So there might be some way of looking differently at the concept, because we use wood. One has to know that the city of Amsterdam is obliged now to build 20% of their houses in wood. Wood has changed its quality very strongly. It's stronger as concrete in many senses. So we adapt actually more to the digital age. People stay in their houses. We use what I think wood is material for the 21st century and not concrete. So that's. But you can also see it's like a wooden barn from the 19th century. It's the way how you look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and I admire your creativity and also your aspiration of being part of the solution rather than the pollution. I also heard birds, and I hope that also the birds will come back, because it's going pretty bad with the birds in the Netherlands. My question is related to the people who are going to live there. Have you already thought about how are we going to organize the maintenance of the forest, but also on the growing your own crops? I have a garden. It's a daily task in itself. And how are you going to do that with all the people living there?
Yeah, we try to make when it is ready and people get in, to make it into a co-op. People have some tasks in it, and of course we have greenhouses there. That's the idea, particularly in Weesp, where they can cooperate. And we have regulations. If you don't cooperate, fine, but then you have to pay extra money. So there's always some. You cannot sell the house the first 5 years or so on so there's the many regulations, and we have already a list of about I would say 500 people or 1,000 maybe already for wanting to live there. And the way how we are going to choose, once there will be, that's still open for discussion or so, that we don't know that yet.
Thank you.
Hi there, Kees ten Blanke. I have 3 related questions. First of all, what will be the energy label of the buildings? Second, how do you heat them? And third, do the costs thereof fit into the affordable price?
3 questions. How we heat them? This was the second question.
That was the second.
Yeah.
How you isolate them was the first.
Yeah. And the energy label, the first one. The first one is the energy label. The highest energy label, because it's an insulation which is thick enough for the highest energy label.
Okay.
That's a main part, because when the insulation is not the highest quality, you have to heat up too much. So first of all, we begin with the building skin. Second question, the heating. We are still thinking about, are this using maybe solar panels, but when you have a forest, it's difficult. So we are thinking of maybe we use wind turbines, or we do it electric. But we are still looking for the solution, the second question.
Yeah.
That's a very practical and important question. And the third question was?
Whether the costs of these first 2 elements, isolation and heating, fit in affordable pricing?
Yes. We did this research together with the people who are doing the building of this element. And we did also the research about the energy, the installation. We incorporated this in the calculation. And as Boudewijn is also part of this whole project, he's the main brain behind the project, I would say also. That is now proving that it can be affordable. So there's not a project from 300,000, it's under the 200,000 at this moment.
Okay, good luck.
In calculated the prices of wood, which is very high at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next question.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your presentation, and I'm very impressed, and I hope that there are some municipal authorities that will give you a chance to actually experiment with it and put it in practice. What I noticed that there's a lot of research and all.
Maybe your name first.
My name is Charles Van Meegen. Sorry. There's a lot of knowledge has gone into this project in terms of material used, climate, the environment, knowledge about plants and about trees and etc. And that's all visible. What I'm lacking, and I heard already a couple of questions before that, is the human interface. Once people move in, the little kids take shortcuts through the woods to the main path. The bicycles are laying around. The garbage cans are out there.
Not possible.
A lot of people like to be unique, so you will see some changes in the houses just to make sure that people will know this is my house and it's not the neighbor's house. And all kinds of, there is a terrace, there will be a barbecue or not. So how much knowledge has gone into the design of this by using the psychological and sociological element of the potential success of this experiment?
Right, now of course we think about it, and we are not, of course, not so experienced in that aspect, but we try also to make a co-op. Co-op is a Swiss form, comes from Zurich, and the Amsterdam municipality stimulates that very much to choose that. So everybody has to become member of a stichting. You can also use the word stichting for it. It's not completely the same, but it is similar. And then you have to do things also, and if you have to subscribe to the statute, what you can do, what you cannot do, and like there can be other problems. I can see people buy it, it's fantastic cheap. I'm going to live there, but they don't do it. They rent it out to a Japanese family or so, whatever. Because that I see more as a concrete problem. This sub-renting out. And so we try to solve these things. Basically, I don't see so many problems. The people who are interested in the waste project, I can see they have to write a motivational letter. And since it's not so big, it's only 75 houses, one can easily see already what the minds are. 20 of these houses are for waste people. That's the idea, the part for the waste people. Yeah, completely you cannot control everything.
Well, that's exactly what I'm commenting on. You put a picture of the Berlage in Amsterdam South project, and the people who designed it actually made the windows so high that if you sat on the table you cannot look outside, because they found it important that families would interact with each other. So they, just by putting the infrastructure in place, they made it impossible for you to look outside, but to be forced by the designers to put the focus in where the designer thought they should be at. And of course that's a big problem with everybody who lives there, who hates that. And I like to prevent you from your successful project that you will create something that the user ultimately is not happy about.
Yeah, there's an interesting question. You're asking actually about the relation between producer and user. And a lot of times we all, particularly Dutch, always say, what is the user saying? How is the user? Is he liking it? Can we incorporate all the things of the user? He's the consumer. So, but first, I think before you do that, you first have to make a good plan. And then later, of course, you can take into account what do they say and so on. But if you listen too much to the users, you get crazy or so. That particularly a co-op structure in Amsterdam, which we have already examples, that is impossible or so. That means the people who are going to live in the apartment house, everybody can say they're all equal, all 50 people are equal, they have meetings, and they say, I want this, I want a swimming pool, I want a tennis court, can we not have the whole house made into a tree or so? It's without an end or so. That means nothing is going to happen. So we try to make it as far as possible, and then we incorporate good ideas. I think that's our strategy.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shani Hulsman. I know the region well, and my family-in-law lives there. I love the ideological picture, but the realistic sounds I would like to hear, because it's enclosed in the very busy highway to Almere.
It's far away, it's next to the channel.
Yeah, but still, with certain windfalls, it's also in the streamline of the Schiphol airport, and there's the trains. And so I do very much like this. I know it's a small spot. I also think the intention is good, but a little bit of reality would be good to listen, because I have never heard these kinds of birds in the area of Weesp, to be very honest. And Zaandam looks then exactly the same. And I think it's not good to talk about the users, but with the users. I would really like your comment on that. How do you see the sound? Mosquitoes are of all times, they don't care about artificial intelligence. There's lots of water. So it's really the nature involvement. What is there? The sounds that are realistic nowadays. How would that fit in that relatively small spot?
Yeah, I can answer that. It's an artificial sound which you hear from, which we take from internet. So I'm honest in that. So what we want to show you is a dream, what it can be. So we don't predict this will be the 100% reality, but we are looking for a dream, a vision, which we presented. And of course you're right, but it has to do, when we are making this next step, we are engaging the landscape architect in this project also, and we have to think about the biotope, we have to think about the soil. And I think when you introduce biodiversity, the birds will come, but they will sound different than here, of course. I can't guarantee that you get this bird sound of these sounds of the nature.
Yeah, I realize that that's taken from internet.
Yeah,
just to make it more realistic.
Yeah.
And the intention is good, but be prepared that there's lots of sounds that people do not associate with this.
Yeah, we introduced this bird sound to making not too boring, to look only to an animation without sound.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing maybe more, because you think, how long will it take before a forest is there? Usually if you do these small things, it can take 20 years. But we buy also trees which are already 8 meters high. So we really make a forest there, which is in 1 year, really also there are trees. It's not so that's one practical solution to get the birds back. Yeah, next question.
Hello, my name is Claudia. I'm from Weesp, and I know the place very well. There are a lot of other building initiatives right now between Muiden and Weesp. And I'm wondering, do you have an overview in which time you will start realizing the project? Do you know about the public opinion? Because we are very fond of it. We really want to live there. But when we talk about it with our neighbors or others, they're quite, how do you say it, scared to give up this open space. So do you know, did you do some research for the public opinion? You don't have the bestemmingsplannen to change the bestemmingsplannen, but what are the steps so you can really start? Because that's a bit fake to me, and as far as I'm concerned, I want to live there tomorrow.
Yeah, I can exactly tell you how that is. There was already publication in the Weesper newspaper, as you know. It was not very clear, but it was 1 page and loads of reactions, of course. The first thing people always think, we do it like in the Bloemendaler polder. We change the landscape for the worse. The idea that you make something better out of it, what's more historical, because we try to rebuild this area like before 1930. And this is only in what you see now, a flat artificial land. And if I look at it, I see it's also misused, this area, by the farmer. He throws all kinds of garbage and the ground, if a bird lands on it now, it drops dead or so. So it cannot stay on. And the other positive thing is that there is movement who owns the ground. I think there is a possibility that we can rent it. They want to get rid of it. So that is two positive things. Then, but I think first people have to see that what Misak is also saying, that we adapt our plans to what it is, and that we try to look into history. How can you make a fantastic piece of land into something which is much better than what it is now, like a garbage can or so. It's been used as a garbage can. So if that comes into the mind of the people, and they see, what do we do with the nature under the ground? There's a ground monument, 7 meters under it. We make a kind of museum in it. People can enter it or so. Then I think probably, and particularly also because houses are very cheap, so that is also, people like that. The Weesp is so expensive now, you can hardly imagine. It's like New York City almost. So how far we are in deep contact with all your principals in Weesp, Lars Boom and Christian from the Green Left. Yeah. Christian is still doubting very much.
I know.
But communication is there. And of course, Amsterdam is very much supporting us, and also we hope, but we need, this area is also belongs to the province. So we prepare very soon the province of North Holland says you have to make forests around city kerne.
I know.
Okay, that's what we do. So we don't expect much hindrance from them. But this process we do in the winter. In March there is a final meeting. Then Weesp is also part of Amsterdam. And then it's yes or no there. It's very easy.
Okay, and if there's a yes, so when and then what comes next?
Oh, then we can do that in half a year or so.
Half a year, yeah. One further thing, we have many children, and we saw the nice birdie sounded image you made. We didn't see a lot of children facilities, and are there
very
some,
good question.
Because they love to climb in trees and so on, but
right.
Are there facilities for children?
Well, it's weak. It's a weak point. It's a good point. Because basically, if you look at these houses, which are especially designed by Misak for this project, for the other project, they are not very big. they're between 50 and 80 square meters. That's already a big one. We have a few of 100. Some are only 40 square meters, 50. You can combine two together, of course, with children. But it is indeed a little bit based for modern people who work at home and do digital
But isn't
stuff.
that weird? Because we want to solve the housing solution. And
Right.
so we say, okay, we just
Yeah.
make a solution
Yeah.
for the elite ones.
No.
That's my other question. How about to include everyone, to give everyone a chance?
Yeah, that's why then I presented that other project where you can combine different units together to make a bigger unit of it, so that you have more people who can live there. So this research, what we showed from this competition, international competition, gives the opportunity to make combinations of units and to make it bigger. But of course, you know, when it gets bigger, it gets expensive. Huh?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So, but we are very open in this. When there are people who are really wanting to have a bigger living space, it can be modular combined to bigger living space.
Yeah. But I hear two different answers, actually, because you are saying, well, we make a project just for people who live with the two of them, or they want to combine work and living, not for families. And you are saying, well, it's possible. So what will it be?
It's not built yet.
No,
So.
Okay.
still in the making.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
No?
Thank you very
Heinz,
much.
There's
One
the
last question.
Last question.
The smartest question always at the end.
Is there still time for a question or remark?
Sure.
Okay. First, thank you very much for the wonderful animation and the future vision on housing. It's very inspiring, I think. I have a remark as to the questions posed by this lady and the man over there, as to the way we think about housing and planning our quarters and our cities. I think the expectation is that we are going to live in a planned quarter and planned by communities, etc. But that is a top-down thinking as to housing and as how we organize our living. And as I understand you make a bottom-up solution for creating your own living and houses and creativity as to your private living within the nature. And I think that's a different way of planning and organizing your ideas. And I think the cooperation is more or less a democratic way to organize this in a community. So there's
that's the co-op. That's the co-op.
The cooperatie.
Yeah.
You have an ALV where you may discuss every common use of the wood, etc.
True.
So,
that's the second part.
So I think the bottom-up thinking about your ideals and your dreams is a new way of. It's a non-Dutch way of thinking about housing, because we are used to that everything is planned and everything is goedgekeurd.
But that's also necessary. Yeah. You have to do it in steps. The co-op system doesn't work right now yet, because first we have to negotiate with the landowners, which we do now, and then you have of course the municipality, which is the most important aspect to cooperate with you. And when they say yes, of course, then this co-op can start on the basis of the people, but not the other way around. I think that doesn't work. We started like that or so, and then people say we want this, but they're not practical enough to get a project moving. To get a project moving, it needs a lot of energy, I can tell you. So that has to be top down. When we over the middle, the cooperation can be started. And cooperation is also to get finance from Amsterdam municipality, but we don't need finance actually. We have a list of 1,000 people who directly want to buy tomorrow a house there. So where do you need finance for or so? So some things are theoretical, and the planning, I think, with suggestions works best.
Yep.
My view,
Sorry. We keep on asking questions. We have to go on.
Oh,
Sorry
can talk
about this. We are far behind schedule now. Thank you.